Welcome back. Let us continue from where we stopped. For 2 centuries, Byzantium was caught between warfare and religious strife. Arab raids continued. The Bulgars remained a constant threat, and internally, the empire was torn between those who supported and opposed the use of religious images. The once mighty empire had been reduced to a fraction of its former size, but despite all odds, it had endured. The Byzantine Empire had survived its darkest hours, but survival was not enough. The empire needed revival, reform, and resurgence. And in the 9th century, under the rule of the Macedonian dynasty, Byzantium experienced a breathtaking rebirth, a golden age of military triumph, economic prosperity, and cultural brilliance that would secure its place as the dominant power in the Eastern Mediterranean. The story of this renaissance begins with Basil I, the founder of the Macedonian dynasty. Rising from humble origins, Basil was a man of ambition and cunning, seizing the throne in 867 AD after overthrowing his former patron, Emperor Michael III. His rule marked the beginning of a new era, one focused on restoring imperial strength. He reinforced the empire's administration, reformed the legal system with his basilica, monumental codification of laws, and revitalized the military, setting the foundation for Byzantine resurgence. It was under Emperor Nicephorus II Phocasar, 963 to 969, that Byzantium began its true military revival. A hardened general before becoming emperor, Nicephorus led stunning campaigns against the Arabs, recapturing Crete, Cyprus, and parts of Syria. He reinforced the empire's borders and introduced heavy cavalry tactics that would define Byzantine warfare for years to come. Yet, despite his battlefield brilliance, he made enemies at home. His rigid rule and harsh taxation policies led to his assassination by his own court. His successor, John I Simiskar, 969 to 976, continued Nicephorus's military conquests, further expanding Byzantine influence in the east. But the greatest achievements of the Macedonian Renaissance would come under Basil II, the emperor who would later be remembered as the Bulgar Slayer. Ruling for nearly 50 years, 976 to 1025 AD, Basil II was one of Byzantium's most formidable rulers. His greatest military campaign was against the Bulgarian Empire, a long-standing rival to the north. For decades, the war raged on, but Basil II refused to relent. In 1014 AD, he delivered the decisive blow, defeating the Bulgarian army at the Battle of Cleidion. He famously blinded 99 out of every 100 prisoners, sending them back to their ruler, Tsar Samuel, who reportedly died of shock upon seeing his crippled army. From that moment, Bulgaria was absorbed into the empire, and Byzantium stood at its largest territorial extent in centuries. Beyond military success, this golden age saw economic prosperity fueled by trade routes stretching from the Silk Road to the Mediterranean. Byzantine coinage, the solidus, remained one of the most trusted currencies in the world. Cities flourished, Constantinople became a hub of wealth and culture, and the empire's influence extended from the Middle East to Italy. The arts, too, experienced a renaissance. Byzantine mosaics, illuminated manuscripts, and grand architecture reached new heights, with the restoration of the Hagia Sophia and the rise of stunning monasteries. Scholars preserved and expanded upon Greek and Roman knowledge, ensuring that classical wisdom would not be lost to time. The Cyrillic alphabet, created by Byzantine missionaries Cyril and Methodius, spread literacy and Christianity into Slavic lands, forging a lasting cultural bond between Byzantium and Eastern Europe. By the time Basil II died in 1025 AD, the Byzantine Empire was at its peak. It stood as the strongest power in the Christian world, unrivaled in wealth, military might, and cultural influence. Yet, for all its greatness, the seeds of future decline were already taking root. The very wealth and power that defined this golden age would soon invite internal corruption, external enemies, and a series of misfortunes that would bring the empire to its knees. For more than 1,000 years, Constantinople had stood as the heart of the Byzantine Empire, an unbroken link to Rome's legacy. It had withstood sieges, betrayals, and invasions, standing firm against enemies that came from all sides. But by the mid-15th century, the empire that once ruled vast territories was now reduced to a mere shadow of its former self. Constantinople, its once glorious streets now quiet, its defenses crumbling, was all that remained. And the enemy at its gates was unlike any before, the mighty Ottoman Empire under Sultan Mehmed II, known as Mehmed the Conqueror. The year is 1453, and Constantinople is surrounded. The Byzantines, led by Emperor Constantine XI Palaiologos, number no more than 7,000 soldiers, including a handful of mercenaries and Venetian and Genoese allies. In contrast, the Ottomans brought a staggering 80,000 troops, backed by an arsenal of cannons that would shake the very foundations of history. Among them, the Great Turkish Bombard, an enormous siege cannon capable of shattering walls that had stood for a millennium. For weeks, the city is bombarded relentlessly. The walls that had repelled so many enemies began to crack. Still, the Byzantines fight with desperate determination, manning every breach, repelling wave after wave of Ottoman attacks. Emperor Constantine XI himself refuses to surrender, rallying his men with the unshakable conviction that they must defend their home to the last. Inside the city, hope flickers like a candle in the wind. Prayers echo in the great Hagia Sophia, where citizens gather, seeking divine intervention. But the West, once Byzantium's reluctant ally, does little to aid the empire in its final hours. The promises of reinforcements from Christian Europe never materialize. Constantinople is alone. On the 29th of May, 1453, the Ottomans launched their final, decisive assault. The defenders, exhausted and outnumbered, make their last stand at the Mesoteikian wall. The chain blocking the Golden Horn is breached, allowing Ottoman ships into the harbor. The city is now under attack from all sides. Then, the unthinkable happens. Giovanni Giustiniani, the Genoese commander leading the defense, is gravely wounded. Panic spreads among the defenders as they believe their strongest leader has fallen. The Ottomans, sensing weakness, surge forward. The Kirkaporta, a small, unguarded gate in the Theodosian walls, is left open, a tragic mistake. Ottoman forces pour through, overwhelming the defenders. Emperor Constantine XI, refusing to flee, throws off his imperial robes and charges into battle with his men. He fights to the death, his body never found, a fitting end for the last emperor of Rome. As the sun rises over the city, Mehmed II enters Constantinople. He makes his way to the Hagia Sophia, now silent. Standing beneath its vast dome, he orders it to be converted into a mosque. The Byzantine Empire is no more. Its thousand-year reign has ended. Yet, even in defeat, Constantinople's legacy does not die. The knowledge, art, and culture of Byzantium would go on to influence the Renaissance, carried west by scholars fleeing the fallen empire. Its Orthodox faith would find a new home in Russia, where Moscow would proclaim itself the Third Rome, and the city itself, renamed Istanbul, would remain one of the most important in the world, bridging continents just as Byzantium once bridged empires. The Byzantine Empire may have fallen, but its story, its impact, and its spirit would endure far beyond its final day. Thanks for tuning into the past. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next time for more stories that shaped our world.